You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
You know, you really have to admire the sheer audacity of it.
It is pretty wild, yeah.
I mean, imagine you are the biggest tech company in the world, right?
Yeah.
You send out this pristine, minimal, carefully designed invite for your massive annual event.
One everyone waits for.
Exactly. And then a rival company, a much smaller one, just decides to virtually spray paint their name right over the top of it.
It is hilarious. You were talking about the brand, nothing hijacking the Apple event invite.
Oh, absolutely. They literally just graffiti styled the word nothing and a date right over the Apple graphics. It is so chaotic. It is like the kid at the back of the class checking spitballs at the teacher. But the spitball is this global marketing campaign.
It is cheeky. I will give them that. But if we actually look closer, it is a very calculated move. It frames nothing as this counterculture provocateur.
Right.
Because see, if Apple is the polished, untouchable corporate giant, to the big brother of design, if you will, then nothing is positioning itself as the gritty, street-level alternative.
It is bold. It is slightly unprofessional. And it is completely impossible to ignore.
Spot on.
And honestly, I reckon it is a perfect springboard for what we are going to unpack today. Because we are looking at design that disrupts the status quo. Sometimes that is with a can of digital spray paint, and sometimes it is with these massive shifts in how the entire industry operates.
Yeah, that is right. Because while nothing is making a massive racket on social media with these stunts, there are other shifts happening that are much quieter, but arguably heaps more significant for the actual business of design and technology.
Speaking of significant business, we really have to talk about Canva.
Oh yeah, the numbers are staggering.
They just closed the year with $4 billion in annual recurring revenue.
$4 billion. Now, I call myself the vocal technologist.
Yeah.
Usually I can talk pretty fast, but even I cannot keep up with that kind of velocity.
It is a huge milestone. But for everyone listening, the number is not really the core insight here. The insight is the strategy sitting right behind it. If you look at where that growth is actually coming from, it's not just people making birthday cards or lost cat posters anymore.
Right.
Canva is explicitly pivoting. Pivoting how exactly? Because to most people out there, they are still just the really easy Photoshop alternative.
That is the old model. They're no longer just a design platform that has some AI features tacked on for fun. They are actively positioning themselves as an AI platform that just happens to have design tools.
Okay, that is a subtle distinction, but it feels quite heavy. Unpack that a bit for us.
Well, think about it. They are integrating deeply with chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude. They're seeing double-digit growth in traffic just from large language model referrals alone.
Wow.
So the tool is basically becoming the endpoint for AI generation. You talk to the AI builds the strategy, and then Canva visualizes it.
So if the platform is doing all the heavy lifting now, like the strategy and the execution, where does that leave the actual human designers? Are we just moving toward a world where everyone is a generic creator using the exact same templates? Because I really worry about the beigification of the internet.
That is the big fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
That everything starts to look exactly the same because it is all fed by the exact same algorithms.
Yeah.
But there is this counter concept emerging in the industry called creative safety.
Creative safety.
Yeah, it is something getting talked about heaps in design systems right now.
It sounds a bit like wearing a helmet while you paint. Or putting those little bumpers on the bowling lanes.
In a way, it sort of is.
But
Think of it less like a strict restriction and more like guardrails.
Yeah.
It is about distinguishing between healthy cohesion, which is when things look like they belong to the same family or brand, and unhealthy sameness where everything just looks identical and completely bland.
Right.
A really good design system or a good AI tool should give you the safety to experiment within boundaries, not just force you into a cookie-cutter mold.
Okay, I get you. So it is the difference between a jazz musician improvising within a key signature versus a player piano just playing the exact same song over and over again.
Exactly. And this tension between automation and creativity really brings us to a new tool from Variant. They have just launched an AI eyedropper.
Oh, I saw this.
Now, traditionally, an eyedropper tool just picks up a color, right?
Right.
You click a pixel, you get the hex code.
Basic stuff. I use it every single day.
Well, this AI eyedropper steals the entire style. You see an interface component, you click the eyedropper, boom, it analyzes the padding, the corner radius, the shadow depth, the font weight, and it just applies all of it to your own work.
That sounds incredible. It is basically copy and paste for vibes. But knowing tech and knowing the stuff we usually explore there is a catch, isn't there?
There is always a catch. The catch here is technical, but it is crucial. Currently, this tool creates designs that look way too similar to what is already inside the system because it is a closed loop. You cannot sample from the outside world yet.
What do you mean by the outside world?
You cannot just drop a bitmap image like a random screenshot or a photo or even a raw Figma file into the tool and steal the style. It only works on vector data that the system already understands.
Oh, I see.
So if everyone uses it, we risk that unhealthy sameness we literally just talked about. It creates an echo chamber of aesthetics.
So we are basically just recycling the exact same buttons and sliders until the end of time.
Until the tech improves, yes. It totally homogenizes the output.
Yeah.
And speaking of things starting to look the same, we really need to look at the heavy hitters in video generation because that sector is absolutely exploding right now.
It really is. I was looking at the specs for ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, and their new release, CDance 2.0. The specs on this thing are just wild. It generates 15-second clips with audio purely from text or video inputs.
And the key differentiator here is the consistency. It is not just static characters creating those weird morphing hallucinations we are used to seeing. It accounts for camera movement, visual effects, and the consistency of the subject. It is a massive leap forward.
ByteDance is obviously entering a ring that is already pretty crowded with Google and OpenAI, but they have something the others definitely do not right.
They have the ultimate distribution advantage, TikTok. They have all the data on what people actually watch, and they have the platform to serve the AI content directly to them.
But with great power comes great legal trouble.
Predictably, yes. This is the exact context for the Hollywood crackdown we are seeing. Disney and Paramount are not just sitting back and watching this happen. They are sending cease and desist letters left, right, and center.
I saw that. They are claiming unauthorized use of copyrighted characters, which makes sense. I mean, if I can type Mickey Mouse fighting Godzilla in a cyberpunk city into an AI generator and get a perfect 15-second clip, Disney has a massive problem.
It is an existential problem for them, straight up. Their entire value is their IP. And this has birthed a whole new industry of copyright detection. There's a startup called Lightbar that is specifically designing tech to detect if copyrighted data was used in training these models.
How does that even work? It feels like trying to unbake a cake just to find out where the eggs came from.
It is incredibly difficult. It is basically a massive game of cat and mouse. The generators get better at hiding the fingerprints of the data, and the detectors get better at finding them. It is inevitable friction. But while the lawyers are fighting it all out, the actual workflow for everyday designers is shifting fundamentally.
Yeah, we are seeing tools like Figma connecting code directly to the canvas now. They have an integration with Claude Code.
This is honestly one of the most exciting shifts. It means the design process is no longer linear.
Right, because traditionally it is product manager has an idea, designer draws it, developer codes it. It is a waterfall.
Exactly. But with these code-to-design integrations, you can start with code. You can write a prompt, get the code, see it render in the design tool, tweak the design visually, and then it updates the code automatically. It is what they are calling the messy middle. You can literally start anywhere.
I really like that. The messy middle, it feels way more organic. But it does beg the question, if AI is doing the video and the code is generating the layout, and the eyedropper is stealing the style, what is actually left for the human? Are we just typing prompts?
That is the million-dollar question. And looking at the current trends, I think the answer might actually be typography.
Fonts. Really? That is our last stand against the machines.
It might be the last thing AI cannot fake convincingly. Typography is about nuance, history, and emotion. When AI does it, it tends to pick generic fonts that are very legible but have absolutely no soul. It kills the branding.
I guess that makes sense. A generic sans serif like Arial or Helvetica just says this is information. It does not tell you anything about the soul of the company.
Exactly. Look at the recent rebrand for the charity Bundle UK. They deal with children in crisis. It's a very heavy emotional topic. They used a 3-tier type system to give themselves a very specific voice.
Break that down for us. What does a 3-tier system look like in practice?
So tier 1, they used a storybook serif font for the emotional narrative parts.
Like the font you would see in an old copy of Winnie the Pooh.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Gives that warm human storytelling feel. Then tier 2, they used a grotesque font for the trust-building informational stuff.
Just for clarity, grotesque here is a technical term, right? It does not mean ugly.
No, not ugly at all. In typography, a grotesque is an early form of sans serif. It feels solid, objective, and trustworthy. Kind of like a government form, but much nicer. And finally, Tier 3. They had a childhood type that looked almost hand-drawn for energy and playfulness.
That is brilliant. It is using type to cover the full spectrum of what the charity actually does. It is functional, but it is deeply emotional.
And that is the key, emotion. If you contrast that with the recent backlash against the Tennessee Titans logo leak, you see the difference so clearly.
Oh, the Titans fans were not happy. I saw the forums lighting up.
Not at all. The leak showed a new logo that stripped away the flames, simplified the colors. It just went full minimalist.
And the fans hated it because it looked too much like a tech startup.
They absolutely despise it. They're calling it boring corporate design. They miss the flames. They miss the grit. It feels like a downgrade to them because it stripped away the personality in favor of clean lines.
It comes right back to that nothing stunt we started with.
Mm-hmm.
Brand identity is entirely about emotion. It is about how it makes you feel. If you polish all the rough edges off, you lose the grip. You cannot hold on to it.
Precisely. Clean does not always mean good. Sometimes you really need the flames. Sometimes you need the spray paint.
Speaking of holding on to things, let us shift gears from digital flames to the physical objects we are literally holding in our hands all day. We have had a look at the leaks and announcements for the Pixel 10a, and the big talking point here is flatness.
The flat camera bar. It sounds like such a small detail, but it is actually a very significant refinement for Google.
It is so satisfying, isn't it? I absolutely hate the wobble. You put a modern phone on the table to type a message, and it rocks back and forth like a seesaw because of that massive camera bump.
It is a huge usability flaw in modern phones. So fixing that is incredibly practical. And that really seems to be the theme for the Pixel 10a.
Yeah.
It is not chasing headline gimmicks. It has Gorilla Glass, 7i recycled aluminum, and a screen hitting 3,000 nits brightness.
3,000 nits is incredibly bright. Why do we actually need that? Is it just for bragging rights?
It is mostly for outdoor visibility. That is, reading a text message in direct sunlight on the beach. Bright, it cuts straight through the glare. And they have packed in a 5,100 milliamp hour battery.
Which is massive for a phone that size.
Exactly. It is focusing heavily on everyday value. Battery life, durability, visibility. Rather than trying to dazzle you with AI features you will never ever use or 100 times zoom you just do not need.
Compare that to what we are hearing about the Samsung Galaxy S26.
There are a lot of doubts swirling around that one. The leaks suggest it is leaning way too heavily on design tweaks, moving a camera bump here, shaving a millimeter off there, rather than delivering core upgrades.
So incrementalism, the classic, it looks new, so it must be better strategy.
It seems so. And honestly, in this economy, if you are not upgrading the battery significantly or changing the camera sensors, a slightly new design might not be enough to convince people to drop $1,000 on an upgrade.
Speaking of questionable hardware choices, did you see the Amigo Junior phone from AT&T and Samsung? It is billed as a smartphone designed by kids for kids.
I did see it, and I have to say I am extremely skeptical.
You do not reckon a committee of 6-year-olds designed the modem architecture?
I highly doubt it. But even on the surface level, if you look at the design, it lacks all the things kids actually want. Where are the bright colors? Where is the ruggedness? It looks exactly like a standard, boring black slab.
It feels much more like a device designed for parents to track their kids.
That is exactly what it is. It has 3 rear cameras, sure, but the main feature set is monitoring. It is a tracking device with a screen attached. It feels like a massive missed opportunity to actually rethink what a kid-focused phone should be from a user experience perspective rather than just a parental control perspective.
It is that unhealthy sameness again. Just shrinking a boring phone does not magically make it a kid phone. Now, on the flip side of disappointment, there is a rumor that might actually cheer up the Apple fans, the iPhone 17e.
Ah, the potential redemption arc.
Apparently, it might finally fix the absolute design crime of the 16e by adding MagSafe and the dynamic island.
It is amazing that we consider basic functionality like MagSafe a fix now.
Yeah.
But yes, it would bring the entry-level model much closer to the premium experience. It unifies the product line nicely.
We trust these devices with our lives, honestly. We carry them everywhere. But as we move into this new era, we're not just trusting the glass and the aluminum anymore. We are trusting the agents living inside them.
This is the next big frontier, the agentic web.
Apple actually released a study on this recently, specifically on how people actually want to interact with AI agents. And the results were kind of surprising to me.
What stood out to you the most?
Well, I thought people would want the magic experience, you know. The sci-fi dream where you just say, book me a flight and it happens instantly in the background. But the study says not really.
No, people definitely want visibility. They do not want the agent to just go off and do it blindly. They want a confirmation pause. especially when real money is involved.
Right. If the AI says, I bought you non-refundable tickets, that is terrifying. If it says, I found these tickets here, is the total price do you want me to buy them? That is helpful.
It is entirely about control. We are happy to delegate the tedious search, but we want to retain the final decision. And this leads us to a really critical concept that is popping up in all the research lately: cognitive sovereignty.
That is a very weighty term. Sovereignty implies a kingdom or a state. Let us unpack that in the context of our own brains.
Think about it this way: personalized algorithms. The ones that feed us content on TikTok, suggest products on Amazon, and now execute complex tasks for us. They are not just reducing friction, they are actively shaping what we think about next.
They are curating our reality. If the map app always takes me the fastest route, I never actually learn the layout of the city.
Exactly. And if we let them smooth out every single bump in the road, we lose the ability to explore independently. Cognitive sovereignty is about maintaining the right to our own attention and our own decision-making processes. It suggests that we actually need friction in the system to keep our own agency intact.
That is profound. If the path is too smooth, you forget you are even walking. You are just sliding along to wherever the algorithm wants you to end up.
Precisely. And it connects straight back to the text trap of current AI interfaces.
Yeah.
You're currently so obsessed with these chat boxes, you type in answers. But that text interface severely limits complex workflows.
Because it is linear, and life is not linear. Problem solving is definitely not linear.
Right. We need rich visual outputs. We need to be able to see options, manipulate them, and make informed choices. If we are just chatting with a bot, we are funneling our entire cognitive process through a tiny text input field. That is a massive bottleneck for human thinking. It forces us to think in the way the machine understands, rather than making the machine adapt to how we naturally think.
It goes right back to that idea of the messy middle we talked about earlier. We need tools that allow us to get messy to explore rather than just sitting there waiting for the machine to deliver the single correct answer.
Because the correct answer is quite often the most boring one, and usually the one that makes someone else the most profit.
So if we want to avoid being boring and we want to maintain our cognitive sovereignty, what should we actually do? Because it feels like the tide is really against us right now.
Well, there's a great mindset shift that I've seen floating around lately. It is beautifully simple. Build something silly.
I love that. It sounds completely counterintuitive for a serious tech show.
It is about moving from being a passive consumer to an active creator. Instead of asking, what app should I subscribe to for this task, ask yourself, could I just build this myself?
And with the AI coding tools we have available now, like the ones integrating straight into Figma, the answer is very often yes, even if you are not a trained developer.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I recently saw someone who used AI to code their own personal invoicing tool just for themselves. It was not a startup idea. It was not a product to sell to anyone. It was literally just a tool they needed for their own life.
That is so empowering. It breaks that constant reliance on big software companies. It is digital self-sufficiency.
And it flexes that creative muscle we talked about. Go out and make something ridiculous. Make a website that just tracks your cat taking naps. Make a calculator that only outputs in Roman numerals.
It does not have to be useful to be valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because innovation is not magic. It is technique. And the only way to actually get the technique is to do the work yourself.
Yeah.
Even if the work is completely silly, if you build a silly thing, you learn exactly how the machine works.
Yeah.
And once you know how it works,
Yeah.
you have mastery over it, rather than the machine having mastery over you.
I think that is the perfect place to leave the main discussion. Do not just sit back and let the algorithms feed you. Go out, spray paint your name on an invite, metaphorically speaking, of course, and build something silly.
Keep your agency.
But you know, it does make me wonder about something else. We are racing to build all these AI tools, but what if the ultimate luxury in a few years is not having an AI do everything for you? What if the biggest flex becomes owning a device that explicitly has absolutely zero AI inside it? Just a completely dumb, beautifully designed analog tool for a human mind. Something to chew on. Catch you in the next one.
Spoken Tech for your ears.